Hi folks, Dino Bob here in the Sauriarium. Today we actually are going to do a double header with two episodes. That's air quotes there. Can't see my fingers, I understand that. First, Hillside Psittacosauri. You can see I've already laid out the basic groundwork and the area for this exhibit. You can also see a area in the corner there that is for a mini animal, and did my usual start of laying down plants to get a basis for what's going to be happening in the environment, and then a lot of editing. This was all done before the curated brushes showed up in the game, so the first takes on the vegetation is much easier now, and just gives you that random element that is suitable to wild plants, that is very hard to replicate with individually placed plants, and it still runs into problems with having plants landing on rocks or in the water or strangely positioned on a slope. But that's what the editing is about. So this is the second Psittacosaurus species. This is the one that is physically close to a Microraptor's dig site. And that's that other build in the corner there, which is actually going to get short shrift in this video. But it's there. And is part of the whole park. You get a better sense of how it's integrated in the last portion of this video, which is sort of a mini tour through this area. This park, despite being sandbox, was intended, among other things, you see the big green block in this video. That's hiding something that I didn't want to show off yet, because I was waiting for Coelophysis to show up in the game when I originally filmed this building part. But I was working it through the way one would have to do for a new zoo that was a challenge game, which means you've got to start with one-star animals pretty much, and get them going, get your park running in the green, and just move along in the usual build way. You can see now that I have animals in, I was able to understand that they were having more trouble than I had hoped, negotiating some of the slopes and such. And you can see me trying to edit the ground a little bit to make things smoother and make it easier for them to navigate the space. An important consideration. We'll see if that holds up when the new animal animations come through. The devs are promising a lot of things, like cutting down on escaping Coelophysis and other animals, and that would be just great. So, you know, a lot of this habitat, you didn't watch me place rocks, but, you know, placing rocks I've done in a lot of other videos, placing plants I've done in a lot of videos, so that's why we're going through it pretty fast. The next part of the video will include a couple of shots of our animals wandering around, doing their thing, just chucking along, and having lunch and stuff like that. Part of this sort of double episode thing is that each of the halves I'm doing as their own. You'll obviously understand part of why I'm doing that, because each of these halves are pretty short. It's less than 5 minutes for this first segment. So the animals seem to be negotiating things better now and having a good old time in their habitat. Boy, that was a fast cloud blow up, wasn't it? Odd, given that things were moving at a slow speed. And yes, I had mentioned the Microraptors. So there's a little bit of video of them in their habitat doing their loot animations. Mini exhibits are something that devs are planning on doing some work on. It's in the public Trello on what they're working on as something that is getting long-term attention as opposed to being deliberately set up to come with a particular update. So we'll see how that goes. You know, this whole exhibit may be totally outdated by that. We're just going to have to wait and see. On to the next portion is the third Psittacosaurus species. Both of these animals have different environmental requirements, and here you see with animal in it just a general exhibit and the rock work. Excuse me, the rock work and water work. You can see the slope and the shelter kind of area that they have there. That took some messing with to keep them from phasing through the rocks, and also to get them to go up on the top there, because I really wanted to get that tall overlook kind of thing. And the slide that has the title on it was shot with one of the Psittacos in here up on that area and looking out over the park, and that's exactly the kind of feel I wanted to get from this. So it's time to throw in plants. This is turning into a throw lots of plants video, but you know, that's how they go sometimes. I was doing my own curation of selections of plants to lay the rough part of the exhibit out. You can see I'm using redwood trees as part of the differentiation between these two habitats to give more of a forested and undercover kind of feel for these animals, as opposed to the more open exhibit that the other Psittacos have. Despite sharing much the same environmental needs, I wanted to give a different feel to the two of them. I hope I managed to do that. Yes, I had to edit the plants out from inside the cave, which was sort of, you know, a big non-starter. And when using the brush, an awful lot of them ended up down there. So anyway, that provided you with a little bit of a tour. The other thing of the cave, right? And the other thing that brought the plants down there was, you know, hitting that smoothing brush and making the plants jump because they were nearby the brush. You can see I built some exhibit screen covers around the screens themselves that will provide our guests with information. Not that they care that much right now, but at some point they will, and it's good to have them. I wanted this to have the feel of sort of a vernal or occasional pool in a forest for this habitat. One of the things you'll note when we do the tour a little bit later is that this whole exhibit is actually built on a pretty steep slope in the park itself. We're looking down on it, so it's harder to see that, but it's there. So there's proof that these guys will go up there, which is what I wanted. They've got their little ramp there that you're watching them use to get up and down with, so they can do it without teleportation, which is something desirable. In the back there you see a project I was working on. This was filmed during a period where the guests were very needy and they wanted all kinds of amenities. and they didn't want to go very far for them, so I had to kind of spam through it to keep the guests happy enough that parks ratings were good. Sorry, having a little trouble with the voice today. Hope it's not being too annoying to y'all. So these guys like to wander through their space. This particular species, nicknamed El Taco Grande, does seem to get crowded more easily than the other two. Part of why there's so few of them in here. But they are photogenic. So, yep, it's tour time. And we're starting down at this little vegetation rock oasis sort of thing here. It's also a roundabout, and on the left there you get your first impression of just how much the elevation is changing through here. The Psittacos on the right turn out to be quite the mountain goats in terms of going up and over the terrain. So the steep hillside there is not an issue for them. So guests coming through here can have the Psittacos on either side and do some compare and contrast if they want to. And turn back to the path here, and you can see the finished cover for the mini aviary for the Microraptor. There, I covered the gate for the keeper and set up this little elevated platform for guests to go up at more or less treetop levels to see the animals, and then or they can go up this steep path with Psittacos on their left up to the top of it, and they're discouraged from going back to the animal care area back there. But one hopes that they will be distracted by turning the other way and being able to look down into this habitat and see the animals come up here and hang out, which they do seem to like to do. Beyond the exhibit, you can see the star of the next video in this park series. It'll be a building build. I know that they don't get as many eyes on as the animal ones, but it was part of the progression in building this zoo. The right is a small refreshment stand area, which was part of that spamming that I mentioned earlier that I had to do to keep the guests trying to be happy. So back around. So this exhibit, the guests get to go completely around, and there's a parallel path which is behind where we are right now, which will let them go out deeper into that part of the park. As is usual, this park is planned to split the eras of the dinosaurs into the usual period divisions. So it will be the Cretaceous out here, and it will be the other way, away from that central exhibit with the Coelophysis, into the Jurassic, out the other side. So back down around and to where we started, and that's pretty close to all I have for you today, and I hope it's been of some interest, and please leave a like if you thought this was interesting, or just were amused by it, or just want to support the channel. Comments are even better. Shows interaction with the audience, which is something the algorithm likes. So here's the overview upstairs. I'll give you an idea of how those two areas lay out in the park. And so that's pretty much it. Dino Bob saying thanks for stopping by, and take care of each other, be kind, and I'll see you all in another video. Take care now.